Hey there, it's Jarvis with Managing the Mess. In this video, I'm going to cover basic paper weaving. So I'm going to share 3 different variations of a weaving lesson that I do with kindergarten, first, and second, so you can see that progression. I'm going to share how I use the school copy machine to copy my paper looms and how I set this up as a 2-week lesson. If we haven't met before, I'm a K-6 elementary art teacher at a Title I school just outside of Washington, D.C. I share that because you may want to modify the lessons that I'm sharing to better fit your student population. I'm going to begin by talking about what I call the weaving strips. So I organize this by doing 2-inch strips for kindergarten. So my kindergarten lesson is they create a picnic blanket with red and white checks, and they add ants later in the lesson. So I'm giving them 2-inch white strips of paper, and then the paper loom is red. That way there is a lot of contrast, and they can see that checkerboard pattern appear within their loom. For first grade, I have the 2-inch strips. They can choose any colors that they like. We spend the whole first class decorating strips, and they have to have at least 2 colors. So this is what my first grade lesson looks like when it's complete. It's super fun with lots of colors. On the back, it would look like this. With second grade, same idea, but now I've got thinner paper because my second graders are about to progress to doing yarn weaving in third grade. So the paper has gotten thinner. When I'm doing the one that you see here for first grade and for kindergarten, I am using 6 strips to go across. When I'm doing the one with our second graders, I am using 12 strips. Now, I hold my second graders to the same standards as the first graders in that they have to design weaving strips that have at least 2 different colors. So for the first class, students in first and second grade would spend the time decorating the weaving strips and then put them into the loom. So they choose the loom color, and then I tell them to put it inside like it is a taco. So they're just putting loose weaving strips, closing it around a loom, and I'm saving those for the following class when we will talk about weaving. Now, students in those grade levels that are decorating the strips have a couple of different options. The first one is I love to use hole punches. So the kind that you squeeze with your hands that punch out little shapes. There are many available. I usually order through school specialty of different shapes. So I have a small heart, a small star, I have a little tiny rectangle. Of course, they come in the circle pattern as well. And students would make one of their strips to be fancy and punch holes out, and then they would glue it onto a plain strip to reveal the color down below. So I have small handheld squeezy hole punches. I also have craft paper punches. So these are slightly larger punches that could punch different shapes, suns and hearts and moons and clovers out of those weaving strips. Students can either punch those out and create, a piece that looks like Swiss cheese that they then glue onto a plain strip, or they can take the little pieces that come out of the hole punch, those little paper piece cutouts, and they can glue those individually onto a strip. Students also have the option of using what I call my crazy scissors. They are decorative edge scissors, and using those to cut a little piece that's very long and thin and then gluing that to another piece. So it kind of looks like a colorful bacon when they're done. They can do the same effect with regular scissors, just cutting a wavy or a zigzag, or even if they desire a straight line. So again, in first grade, on that first day, they're decorating 6 of these weaving strips, and my second graders are decorating 12. Next, I suggest that you create a template for your loom. I create mine on construction paper that is 12 by 18, and I fold them in half. I am later going to copy these on my copy machine, and I'm going to show you how to do that as well within this video. For kindergarten and first grade, I'm using the same size loom template. So once it's folded in half, I'm measuring down 2.5, 3 inches as a little buffer there on the outside edge. I do glue down little stop signs because I want students to know that this line I'm drawing here is the line to stop cutting on. And then I will divide this up into 6 2-inch sections. I do number these because I've found in the past that if a student is really struggling, you could turn over the loom and then have them do the weaving on the odd numbers or go over the even numbers. And they're able sometimes to see that pattern better because those are things that they've already done in math class. For my second grade, they've got 1-inch strips, remember, that they're weaving with. So the loom looks a little bit different. I would measure down 2 or 2.5 inches for this buffer area when I'm creating my template, and I'm dividing this into 8. So that's about 1.5 inches for each section. Again, I'm numbering those in case that comes in handy for students if they're struggling with the weaves. If you're able to, you put your template right on top of the copy machine. Next, you're going to want to put the paper in what is often called the bypass tray, a tray on the side where you can feed in paper that is 12 by 18. And then you want to select the bypass tray for where the paper is coming from. And you need to go in and change the paper size. So I'm pressing on the button there on the screen that says paper size. 12 by 18 doesn't come up, so I'm going to look for a button that says custom size, and I'm going to put in the size of the paper that I am using. So the paper is 18 across or horizontal, and for vertical, it is 12 inches. I'm clicking on that and then selecting 12. You'll next have to press OK after you confirm that you have the 12 by 18 and click that OK button. And then go in and change the paper type. So I'm going to click on that paper type button there and then select what is thick paper 2 or another option you might have on your copy machine. And then again, select OK when I review that. Next, you would select how many copies you wanted to make and press start. And then the loom will come out printed on your construction paper. In first and second grade, on the very first day of the lesson, they're decorating those weaving strips and then saving them inside of their color loom of their choice. So I've copied them onto different colors of paper for the first graders for them to choose. In kindergarten, I keep it simple because we're making those picnic blankets. I am just using the white weaving strips with the red looms. And students would start off by having this folded in half in kindergarten and cut, 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 stop, cut, 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 stop, cut, 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 stop. I tell them that when they are done cutting, this should look like a hula skirt or a car wash. There shouldn't be any pieces that fall off onto the floor. On day 2 of the lesson in first and second grade is when they would begin cutting these apart and then begin to weave their strips. When you're teaching weaving, it's wonderful to make a video to go along with this or demonstrate this on your document camera. But something that I have found, because I have a lot of English language learners, is that if I only show this from above, some of them see that checkerboard pattern and they think what I did was that I cut white squares and then they glue those white squares down on the paper. So whatever you're able to do, document camera, or if you pre-record things on your iPhone or iPad, I would show an angle where you are horizontal with what you're weaving. So they see you lifting up the paper, creating that tunnel and going underneath and over top. And be sure to point out that it's not just under, over, under, over. It is on the first strip. But the second strip should be a little bit different, okay? Should be over, under, over, under, over, under. So you could talk to your students about this and connect to what they do in their classroom by describing the under over as the AB pattern, and then the over under as the BA pattern. So they do not want 2 strips right next to each other that have the same under over weaving look to them. So I call them twins and I tell them if that happens, they're just going to pull it out. And you're going to want to, in your demonstration, whether you're doing weaving or anything else, show them what a mistake looks like so they can identify when something doesn't go quite right, but also teach them what to do, okay? If you do not, as soon as someone has one that looks like a twin because you said not to do that, they're going to raise your hand and demand your help in fixing it, okay? When they simply could just pull it out and try it again. Have them look at what they did last time to start. So they can see a pattern when they're looking at the very bottom of the weaving and see that over, under, over, under, over, under. And that's a good way for you to check. And checking also on the top. As they're weaving these strips in, I do not allow my students to glue them until they have all the strips in place, and then they raise their hand to have an IA or myself check and be sure that all the strips are there and the pattern is correct. Then students would just peel back the very bottom of the strip and the top and put a little bit of glue stick in there to hold it in place. In kindergarten, we begin with permanent markers drawing the ants onto each white square of the paper. And in my district, kindergartners studies ants, so this is a great connection to the classroom. And we talk about the head, the abdomen, the thorax, the 2 antennas, and the 6 legs. That takes the kindergartners through that first day. On the second day, the kindergartners would come back and they would get the colorful markers and they would add in food. And I just asked that they make each little square on their picnic blanket show a different food. So they're not just taking the easy way out and giving each one a little banana. They've got something different that they've carefully thought out and thought about also what color is that to make it the correct color within their weaving. For first and second grade, they're doing their own colorful weaving strips. And that adds a lot of decoration. But as they finish, the plain spaces where you just see the loom coming through, you can add a little something to that to zhuzh it up. So I have them use construction paper crayons. You could probably also do tempera paint sticks or another medium like Sharpie of your choice. And I have them add some decoration. Some students will even punch holes around the outside edge of the loom and even take this up to the next level. I do display these in the hallway by hanging them up and put their name tag sticker then on the front.